Hi, I am Sarangdar and this is demonstration video of task 4.1b persistence layer. I need to set up a persistence layer for my backend application using PostgreSQL as the database. This means I will be creating tables in the database to store data from my application. Then I will write code to connect my API controllers to the database so they can interact with the data. I will need to make sure I can retrieve, update, insert, and delete records from the database using my API endpoints. Once everything's set up, I will generate a database schema file and submit it along with my code. So let's come to the code part. First is map.cs file. In this file, I declared the namespace, whose name is the robot controller API, and next is the class declaration, that's name is the map. This line declares a public class named map. Next is the class properties, like public int id represents the unique identifier for the map. Next is the int column, that represents the number of the columns in the map. Int row, that represents the number of row in the map. Name, it represents the name of the map. Next is the string description, represents description, date, time, and the modified date. Next is the constructor, public int id these. This constructor method that initializes a new instance of the map class with the provided value for it properties. Parameters like id, columns, rows, name, description, and all. Inside the constructor, the values of the parameters are assigned to the corresponding properties of the map class using property initializer, that is id is equal to id, columns is equal to columns, etc. Next code is the program robot command.cs. In this file we also do the same thing, namespace declaration. The next, whose name is the robot control API. Next is the class declaration, public class robot command, and then we started initialize the properties where public int id represents the unique id identifier. Then name represents the unique name for the robot command. Description, move command, that will be left, right, created date, modified date. Same thing here, we make a constructor for this. This constructor method initializes the new instance for the robot command class with the provided values for its properties. So the next code is program.cs. In this code, first is a where builder is equal to web application dot create builder arguments. This line creates a web application builder instance which is used to configure the web application. It takes argument as an argument, which typically includes command line arguments. Builder service dot add controllers. This line adds controllers to the service container. Controls handle incoming HTTP request and return appropriate responses. Where app is equal to builder dot build. This line builds the web application using the configured service and middleware. After that, HTTP request pipeline configuration. This is the HTTP request pipeline configuration, where the block of code checks if the application is running development in development mode. If it is, it adds the developer exception page middleware. This middleware displays detailed error information in the browser during development. This is use HTTPS redirection. This line adds support for the authorization, allowing the application to restrict access to the certain resources based on the user's role or permission. Next is the app map controller. This method maps HTTP request to controller action. It tells the application to route incoming request to the appropriate controller and action method based on the request's URL. Next is the run. This line starts the application and being listened for the incoming HTTP request. So my next code is the map data access.cs. Uh, in this file, firstly In this code, we defined a map data access class within the robot controller API namespace. So this line private constant string connection string is equal to localhost and all this. So in this line declares a constant string connect string which contains the connection details for the accessing the PostgreSQL database. It includes the host address, username, password and database name. Next is the public static list map. Method is responsible for the retrieving all maps from the database and returning them as a list of the map objects. Then we are making the database connection and query execution using where connection is equal to a new npg SQL connection. This line of code. This line establishes a connection to the PostgreSQL database using the provided connection string. The npg SQL connection class represents the connection to the database. Then using where cmd is equal to new from map connection. Here a SQL query to select all records from the map table is defining using the npg SQL command class. The query is executed and the result are retrieved using a data reader, npg SQL data reader, which iterates over the returned rows. So next is the data retrieval and object creation, where we use the while loop dr.read. Inside the while loop, each row returned by the query is processed by one. Data from each row is extracted using the data reader and assigned to variables representing the properties of a map object, such as id, columns, rows, etc. Next is the where map is equal to new map id, columns and whatever. A new map object is instanced using the retrieved data from the database. Maps.add map. The newly created map object is added to the maps list. Next is the returning the result. Return map. Finally, the map returns the list of map objects containing all the maps retrieved from the database. So we come to the next part. Here the first line is update map update map. This method updates an existing map record in the database with the information provided in the updated database object. It establishes a connection to the database, prepares an SQL update statement with parameter for column, row, name, description, and modified date, and executes the statement. Next is the insert new map. This method inserts a new map record into the database using the information provided in the new map object. Similar to the update map method, it establishes a connection to the database, prepares an SQL insert statement with parameters for column, row, name, description, created date, modified date, and execute the statement. Next is the delete map. This method deletes a map record from the database based on the provided ID. It establishes a connection to the database, prepares an SQL delete statement with a parameter for the map's ID, and execute the statement. There are similar work, you can say the same work in the robot command. Here robot command, get robot command. The robot command class contains the method name getRobot command, responsible for the retrieving a list of robot commands from the database. This method establishes a connection to the PostgreSQL database using the specified connection string. It then executes an SQL select query to retrieve all records from the robot command table. Using npg SQL data reader, it iterates over the result set and extracts value from each robot commands. Attributes such as id, name, description, isMove command, created date and modified date. With the retrievable value, it constructs robot command object and add them to a list. Finally, it returns the list of robot command object containing the data retrieved from the database. Next is the update robot command update command. This method updates an existing robot command in the database. It establishes a connection to the PostgreSQL database using the specific connection, and it constructs an SQL update query to modify the attributes of the robot command based on the provided update command. And parameters such as name, description, is move command, all bound to the query to prevent SQL injection. The method that executes the query to update the corresponding record in the database. Next is the insert robot command. In this method, we insert a new robot command into the database. It establishes a connection to the PostgreSQL database using the specified connection string. It constructs an SQL insert query to add a new record to the robot command table based on the provided new command. Parameters such as name, description, is move command, ID, modified date, boundary to the query to prevent SQL injection. This method then executes the query to insert the new record into the database. Next is the delete robot command. This method deletes an existing robot command from the database based on its ID. Under this function, establish a connection to the PostgreSQL database using the specific connection string. It constructs an SQL delete query to remove the record with the specified ID from the robot command table. The ID parameter is bound to the query to prevent SQL injection. The method then executes the query to delete the corresponding record from the database. Let's come to the controller part. First we will see the map controller.css file. In this file, firstly we specified the base root of the map related endpoints, then defines an HTTP GET endpoint to retrieve all the maps. Call the get all maps method from the map data access to fetch all maps from the database. Return the retrieved maps as an HTTP response with status code OK200. Next is HTTP get square. Defines an HTTP get endpoint to retrieve square maps. Filters the map by comparing the number of columns and rows, returning only those where the number of columns equals the number of rows. Returns the filtered square maps as an HTTP response with the status code 200 OK. Next is the HTTP get ID. Defines the HTTP get endpoint to retrieve a map by its ID. Accepts the ID of the map as a root parameter. Calls the get all maps from the map data access class to fetch all maps from the database, and then finds the map with the specified ID. If the map is found, returns it as an HTTP response with status code 200. Otherwise, it returns a 404 not found response. Next is the HTTP post. Defines an HTTP post endpoint to add a new map. Accepts a map object representing the new map to be added in the request body. Checks if provided map object is null and returns a 400. Advanced bad request response if so. Retrieves the maximum ID of existing maps and increments it to assign a new ID to the incoming map. Sets the created and modified dates of the new map, and then returns a 201 created response with the newly created map in the response body along with the URL to retrieve it. Next is the HTTP port ID. It means we want to update something. Accept the ID of the map as a root parameter and the update map object in the request body. Retrieves the map with the specified ID from the database using get all maps method. If the map is not found, return a 404 not found response. Sets the modified date to the update map and update the map into the database using the update map method from the map database map data access class. After that, return a 204 no content response upon successful update. And after that, HTTP delete endpoint delete a map by its ID. Accepts the ID of the map as a root parameter. Retrieves the map with the specified ID from the database using get all map method. If the map is not found, returns 404 not found response. Deletes the map from the database using the delete map method from the data access class. Returns 204 no content response upon successful deletion. And the last is the HTTP GATE ID x-y. It defines HTTP GATE endpoint to check if a given coordinate x, y is within the boundaries, accepts the ID of the map, the coordinate x and y as the root parameters, checks if the provided coordinates are negative and return a 400 bad request response if so. Retrieves the map with the specified ID from the database using getAllMaps method, and after that map is not found, then returns 404 not found response. Determines whether the given coordinate are within the map boundaries based on its column and rows. Then returns the value indicating whether the coordinate are within the maps boundary as the HTTP response with status code 200 OK. Actually, we are doing same thing in the robot command controller.cs file. In this file, we define its root firstly, API robot commands, then define the HTTP GATE endpoint to retrieve all robot command, retrieves all robot commands from the database using GATE robot commands. You can see it. Then return an HTTP response with status code 200 OK and list of the robot. Then we have the GATE HTTP GATE move. It also defines the HTTP GATE endpoint, retrieve only the robot move commands, retrieves all robot commands from the database and filters them to include only the move commands using link, returns an HTTP request response with status code 200 OK and filtered list of the move commands. Next is the HTTP GATE ID, name is equal to GATE robot command, defines the GATE endpoint, accepts the ID of the robot as a root parameter, retrieves the robot command with the specified ID from the database using GATE robot commands. After that, if the command is not found, returns a 404 not found response, otherwise returns an HTTP response with the status code 200 OK. Next is the HTTP post, defines HTTP post endpoint, accepts new robot command data in the request body, checks if command request contains valid command data with the same name already exists. If command data is invalid or command with the same name exists, return a 404 bad request or 409 conflict response. Adds a new command to the database uh, using insert robot command. Adds a new command to the database using insert robot command. Next is the HTTP put ID. Defines HTTP put endpoint, accepts the ID of the command to be updated as a root parameter and the updated command data in the request body. Checks if requested command exists and if command with the updated name already exists, excluding the current command. If the command to be updated is not found or a command with the updated name already exists, it returns 404 not found or 400 bad request in response. Otherwise, updates the command in the database using update robot command and method from the robot command data access and return 204 no content response. Next and last is the HTTP delete. This is the delete endpoint, accepts ID as a root parameter, checks if the command to be delete exists. If the command is not found, return 404 not found response. Otherwise, deletes the command from the database using delete robot command from the robot command data access class and returns 204 no content response. That's the all code. We will see it's working and we will check in the database it's stored or not. For the working of code, we will first run our code .NET.run. It's building. It will take some time to build. So now we have to copy this link from here, localhost and port number, and we will put it on our postman. After that we will give him path API maps for access the map. You can see we have all the maps 4, 5, 6, and the next is the maps square. You can see 4, 5, 6 because all are in a square. You can see columns and rows are equal here in all the entries. Next is ID. You can see here it is also working. I think next command is the post command. Next command is the post command. So for posting we will have to copy this and I will put it in body. Post, I'll put it in body. I'll keep it on row, so it will take the ID automatically, so no need to define its ID. And we can keep the column 80 and 40. 80, 40. Description number, we can say it's 8, and I will delete the created date and modified date because it will use default modified and created date. So you can say we created a new command, just need to check. You can see here it's ID 13 because I used this database before make this video, that's why its ID is 13. And you can say column is 80, row is 14, name of map is 4, description 8, all things is same. Next is the put ID, so I will keep it into the put, and I want to change ID 13. In ID 13 what we can change, we can change its description from 8 to 13. We can keep it from 8 to 13. We can give the name from map 4 to map 13, and we can change its raw 40 to 45. Let's check it is working or not. It's already updated, so I will get to check it's updated or not. You can see here rows are updated, name of the map is updated, description is also updated. Okay, so next is the delete command. For delete command I will use the ID. Firstly I will show you the this ID, http get ID. From, if we give the ID 13 and its range is 45 to 80, so I will give it 46 hyphen 79. It's false. 46 and 40, it's true. I think first is the column and second is the row, so I will do it according to that. You can see here if I keep the row 76, a column 76 and row 40, then it is working. If I exceed the range like 45 to 46, then it will give me the false value. It means it is working good and well. Next is the delete. For deletion I have to use only ID. I want to delete ID 13, so I will go to the delete and put it ID 13, then I will send my ID is deleted. For checking we will get, so we can see here ID 13 is not present here, it means it's already deleted. So we will come to the robot command. We will change its root. We will give the robot commands. Then we can see all the robot commands: 3, 4, left, right, move, place, and whatever. Then I want move commands. I will give the move command. All the move commands are here. After that we will check the ID. We will put specific ID like 4. Our fourth ID is present here. 5, fifth is present here. Then after ID we will do post, http post. For posting any command we will copy this credentials and put it into the body. Then I will remove this ID from here because no need to give the ID, it will take automatically from the database. So I will change name from here. If I give it name swing and command is swing command. Let's check. Sorry, I'll keep it into the post. So we can see here we got a new command whose name is swing, whose description is swing command, and its ID 14. Because I used the database before making this video and I deleted that data from my database, that's why it is taking the ID 14. So the next command is http put and then http delete. Firstly I will check http put, I will keep it to the put, and I want to change ID 14. So I will copy this ID from here and I will put it here. I will change its description swing command to description 14. Swing 14. Let's see it's working or not. For checking I will go to the get command. If we check here, the command is updated. Name of the command is swing to swing 14 and description is from swing command to description 14. It means it's working. So our last command is the delete command. For delete command I will put it into the delete and then I will specify the ID number, that is we keep it 14. Let's see it is deleting or not. For check the deletion we will get the all commands. So we can see here 14th ID is not here, that means it's deleted. That was the running part. Now we will check the PG admin, it means our database. So we selected our script and we can see it map 4, map 5, map 6, and because we deleted all the part because that's why that part is not here. Next is the robot command. We'll check its script. We will select script, execute script. We can see left, right, move, place, proper, that all commands are here, and rest of the commands we deleted, that's why that is not here. That's it in today's video. Thank you for watching.